Hi, I'm David Manti, and welcome to a new episode of the Today in Manufacturing podcast. With me today are Jeff Reinke and Anna Wells. We're the editors of Manufacturing.net and Industrial Equipment News, and we each have more than 20 years of experience covering the manufacturing industry. Each week, we take the three biggest stories in manufacturing and discuss the implications they have on the industry going forward. Before we get started, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You could also give us a thumbs up on YouTube. That'll really help us out a lot. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach any of us at Anna, Jeff, or David at IEN.com with email the podcast in the subject line. We're also live every Thursday at 2 p.m., so subscribe to us on YouTube at IEN Magazine so you can get a notification when we go live, or Anna, when my flight's delayed, when we go sort of live on a Friday morning.
Yeah, we just do what we got to do.
Yeah, it was so bad. It was, and man, my flight was delayed the day before, like afternoon, and they were just like, hey, we're having mechanical issues now, and we already know you're not going to fly out on time. It wasn't great, Jeff.
Well, the notice, though, is kind of refreshing. To know that far out is kind of cool.
It was. It was like, would you like us to rebook you immediately? I'm like, absolutely. It's like, you can get in Friday night. I'm like, wait a second. That's like 3 days away.
You can drive.
Yeah, I was up right there. I was just like, we can get a car right now and get out of here. But no, we were able to figure out a decent
And it was
switch.
still faster than driving? Taking the plane?
Not if
you're in
right
a
then.
very remote area, so your options are limited.
It would have been about the same. It would have been about the same, but like, I'm glad that we stayed one more night in a hotel and didn't drive 7 hours. I'm glad we didn't do that.
See, I would struggle with. I would be like in the car going.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah,
me too.
Well, and it was, I don't know. I was, it was in a nice area. They had really good candied nuts. I enjoyed those.
That is not enough. You're not selling.
No.
No,
I understand. But it was, luckily we were able to get out the same day we were supposed to, just much later. So it was like I was landing as we were supposed to shoot the podcast, and I apologize to everyone for that issue. Jeff, how you doing this week?
I'm great, David.
Yeah?
I'm doing great.
That's good. Anna, all good?
Yeah, doing great.
And I did want to, I know that I wanted to thank Ben Munson out of the gate for producing last week's episode. I also wanted to thank everyone who stuck around and listened to it. We did the audio only version. And I did want to, Ben shared a editor's notes on the podcast that I hadn't seen until we published it. I wish we would have recorded it, but I just wanted to share it in case you didn't see it. He wrote, "This is Ben Munson's first time producing the Today in Manufacturing podcast, and careful listeners may notice that David Manti's voice sounds a little off in the recording. Ben is still learning to understand the power of David's voice and how it can test the limits of traditional recording equipment. Next time, he'll make sure levels are correct. Thank you for your continued patience and support." I added, I apologize for my voice. So sorry if it sounded a little funky last week, and sorry for blowing out the levels, Ben. I really appreciate you saving that the way you did. There's AI for everything except fixing my voice.
Ben didn't know that you yell?
We even joked about it where, we checked our levels and then he's just like, everything looks good. Yep. And then left. And we're like, man, I bet Eric wants to do that every week. And then he comes immediately after the podcast. He's like, hey, so you came in way hotter than when you did your sound check. I'm like, doesn't sound like me at all.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like me at all.
Hard to believe.
Before we jump into our first story, we have a word from our sponsor, Oracle NetSuite. This episode is brought to you by Oracle NetSuite. For many businesses today, waiting to modernize your ERP may seem like the safe choice, but hidden costs can quickly add up. Every delay brings more inefficiencies and missed opportunities for innovation, while competitors who modernize gain an ever-growing advantage. In this new guide, you'll discover the real price of waiting, how outdated systems lead to hidden costs and limit your growth potential, the risk of falling behind, what's lost by delaying ERP modernization, and how early adopters are getting a competitive advantage, the modern ERP advantage, which is how NetSuite's AI-powered features streamline operations and enable faster, smarter business decisions. So, download The Hidden Cost of Standing Still to learn how timely ERP modernization drives faster growth, sharper insights, and long-term competitive success. There is a link to download that in the body copy as well as the live chat, which we're not doing right now, but it will be there next week, most likely. All right, our first story this week. Seattle Cheesemaker looks to save shuttered Wisconsin facility. Last Monday, Prairie Farms Dairy, which is based in Davenport, Iowa, announced plans to cease operations and lay off 54 employees at its White Hill Cheese facility in Shellsburg, Wisconsin. The company is also closing the Shellsburg Creamery, cutting another 43 jobs. A small staff of 21 is going to stay on to shut down the plant, but eventually they're losing their jobs as well. Well, 3 days later, Beecher's Handmade Cheese from Seattle stepped in and announced plans to acquire the plant in White Hill. The company plans to take over the site in September, restart operations, and bring back up to 40 employees. Now, the deal isn't done yet, but if everything goes through, this will be a big Midwest expansion effort for Beecher's, which is vital for a company with needs, or which needs to have, their needs are starting to begin to outpace its capabilities in Seattle. So, Jeff, with the New Balance story that we did last week and Beecher this week, do you see this as a trend that comes with more investment in U.S. manufacturing, or is this more of an anomaly with a pair of feel-good stories?
I don't think I would go so far as an anomaly, but I think it's just folks being more aware of these types of situations as they arise, and things synced up really well in this situation, I think. In a rare switch of roles, I think I'm going to be a little more positive and maybe let Anna deliver the darker side of this story.
I'm
that
here
okay?
for it. Yeah, let's do it.
Because I thought this was kind of interesting. When you look at Prairie Farms, they define themselves as like an agricultural cooperative, because they do have these partnerships where the company is technically owned by like 600 farmers, essentially, who are obviously supplying all the dairy product that they're processing. Now, let's be real. I mean, there's a very corporate structure here, okay? I mean, they're definitely a large company. I just thought it was interesting to see a co-op basically making more of the corporate move in shutting down plants and laying off people. Like that's not something you would automatically associate sort of with that dynamic. I thought what was also kind of interesting here is when you look at Beecher and how they're looking to expand, it's in such a different business model than what Prairie Farms has had. Prairie Farms has a lot of these facilities. If you look at, they run a lot of different factories in this region, in the Midwest, again, so they can source the fresh product, get it out the door. It makes sense from a logistical perspective. So for it to match up with Beecher, who is a relatively small, more retail-oriented company, looking to expand, it was kind of a cool meshing of that. And I just wonder if a little bit of that doesn't come from the fact that they can leverage, number one, the factory is set up for the same type of products, obviously. Yeah. But also, we hear so much about the skills gap and the knowledge gap. And we can't find people who have the expertise we need to do this. And Beecher was really able to not just capitalize on the raw infrastructure, but also a lot of potentially this organic knowledge. Yeah. Talk about the machine whisperers all the time. Yeah. Well, I mean, making cheese is an art. It really is. We appreciate that here in Wisconsin.
We do.
So for them to sort of be able to tap into some of those folks and keep those jobs in place for the same essential product, just going a different direction, pretty cool alignment there, I thought.
No, I mean, that really made sense to me. I mean, it's upsetting to see the news that the plant's closing, but Beecher at the same time was probably looking at an expansion, and in the Midwest, it seems like a great fit. And honestly, I mean, I buy it. There are Prairie Farms products in my fridge at the moment, so I'm in deep on the milk and cheese there. And I mean, this seems like a great move for many people, but certainly not everyone.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a slam dunk when you look at the outcome for the community. It was an incredible story for sure. And when you consider the initial reaction by the Shellsburg community, as you mentioned, this region is very cheese oriented, right? There's a lot of cheese brands and facilities in this region of the state. Shellsburg specifically is really well known for making cheese. And so when they announced these closures, the community was very shocked and upset for good reason, right? This is one of the largest employers in the city. And so for me, when you see how that announcement was made and it was paired with this sort of opaque statement about, we're working on this deal, but the plant's going to close. You just kind of wonder if it could have been done differently or better. I know that sometimes businesses are operating under NDAs, or there's like a specific reason to close down before restarting because of like the, transitioning between those two businesses. Sometimes that's easier from a paperwork standpoint.
Yeah.
But man, like it was really, kind of like a, sorry, your jobs are gone. They might not be, but we don't know how many.
Yeah.
And then it was reported later in the Monroe Times, which is a kind of a local, a town not too far off from Shullsburg. But, they're talking about how a few dozen people are going to be rehired, potentially like a max of maybe 40 people. I mean, that's still 70 something jobs that are not coming back.
Right.
I mean, that's 2/3 of that workforce in Shullsburg with these cheese facilities are gone regardless of whether this purchase takes place or not.
Right.
So maybe the plant is saved,
Yeah.
but I think that's cold comfort for a certain and kind of significant number of those workers who are not going to have a job at all, even though this has happened. And the Shullsburg mayor described it as a generational business in that multiple family members work there or have worked there, husbands, wives, cousins, children, and grandparents. It reminded me of that situation in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, when Leinenkugel shut down that plant, how the community identified so much with that industry and with that plant and with that brand. It had a huge generational workforce. I mean, it's really impactful on a community when you're not just talking about some fly-by-night plant that, this is an industry that they truly identify with. And so I think it leaves a mark a little bit more lasting, even if someone comes in and tries to salvage some of those jobs and some of that operation.
Well, and I see that as salvaging some of those jobs. And there's actually a little bit more to that part of the story that I want to share. But I also feel like it's salvaging 40 jobs now. But I mean, think of it as restarting and then building off of that to keep it in the community. And then maybe, they plan on also opening a retail store in Shullsburg. I see it as what it's going to take to get operations off the ground and then scale from there. So I think it's certainly a better situation for the community and potential future employees than just like, we're shutting it down.
Of course it is. Yeah. Of course it is. But I'm just saying it's not like a one for one. You know, it's like there's still a big gap here in terms of what jobs are being lost. And as they scale, that's wonderful. But like that is not a paycheck for a person who has bills coming in every month. Like it's not like you can just sit around and wait for them to scale and then maybe they'll hire you back. You don't.
You got
to move on, Yeah,
get out there on social media and start really pushing Beecher's cheese.
Right.
So where is Shullsburg? It's like by Monroe, so it's like southwest of Madison, right? Like right on the border.
Yeah, it's like almost to Illinois, Iowa, that corner.
Like right on by Rockford or so ish. More
Further west.
Further west.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so a little bit about this facility. This facility first started as a joint venture making Swiss cheese, baby Swiss, and grass-fed varieties. Then Prairie Farms acquired full ownership just in 2020. And now the timing of this deal wasn't perfect, but Beecher's and Prairie Farms actually started meeting about this transaction before the layoffs were even announced. So it was like they were trying to get something done, and it just didn't close fast enough. Beecher's executives actually joined a town hall meeting last week. Did you see that part of it? So Beecher's executives come into a Shullsburg town hall, and especially after the news broke out about the plant shutting down, at the town hall, they were actually helping employees fill out job applications to begin the hiring process. And I thought that was really cool. Beecher's also plans, like I said, to open that retail store. So I see this as, isn't a very unfortunate bridge, but hopefully a road to still a big cheese presence in Shullsburg.
Big cheese presence.
A big cheese. I could use a big cheese present. I mean,
all right. Keep that in mind.
Yep.
Moving
Whoever
on.
gets me for Secret Santa, I want a big cheese present.
Big cheese.
All right. Actually, a very similar story, but a different industry. Our next most popular story this week is Mars is going to shutter its U.S. headquarters and cut more than 300 jobs. Mars Incorporated, which makes M&M's, Snickers, and Whiskas, is shutting down its corporate hub in Newark after 86 years and shifting administrative functions to a new campus in Chicago. The company told New Jersey officials that it plans to shutter the U.S. headquarters by the end of October, and this is all according to a report from NJ.com. The move is going to affect 307 jobs. Mars' current headquarters is only 6 years old. It opened in 2020, but the company has been in Newark since the 1940s. You might not know this, but M&Ms were actually invented in Newark after Forrest Mars Sr. saw British soldiers eating pieces of chocolate during the Spanish Civil War. We actually talked kind of in depth in that story, 100 episodes ago on the podcast. The Mars production facility in Hackettstown, New Jersey, is going to stay open. And the news comes after Mars announced this spring that Chicago will be the home of Mars Snacking. This is after it bought Kellanova, which owns Cheez-Its, Pringles, and other snack brands, but not Whiskas. Mars will invest $100 million in Chicago and create more than 600 new jobs. Anna, why are companies bailing on Jersey?
I mean, they have their reasons, I guess. I don't think that Illinois is necessarily a cheap place to operate either. So I don't think that that's as fair of an assessment when you look at this situation here.
Yeah.
Not to mention the fact that Mars is not leaving its Hackettstown facility, which is also in New Jersey. So
Yeah.
I think there's something else happening here. I'm not exactly sure what, but it is an interesting story. I read a report in Real Estate New Jersey that called this a disappointing end to what was an economic development success story in Newark. So it sounds like this former, this outgoing facility, right, was announced in 2017. And then, as you said, it was completed in 2020.
Yeah.
With the help of a 10-year, $31.5 million tax credit package from the state that it sounds like Mars is now likely to have to repay. Mm-hmm. So they really want to get out of there.
Yeah.
And what I'm guessing is, and, you know, I don't know for sure, but like to consolidate some of their operations as a cost-cutting technique would make sense to me. The jobs that were in this Newark facility, for the most part, were actually previously housed in Hackettstown. Mm-hmm. So, you know, now Mars is saying, like, we're looking at trying to, you know, see if we can move people around or give them some transfer options or whatever. They might have a very easy way of doing that by just putting them back in Hackettstown, which is in New Jersey, as you mentioned. So that will be interesting to see what exactly happens. But you know, the Hackettstown plant was also recently upgraded. That's a plant that obviously they're sinking some money into and looking to, it seems like, maintain for the long haul. So I don't know. You know, the New Jersey Business and Industry Association CEO and President Michelle Sakurka said that New Jersey, though, meanwhile, is losing 9,700 jobs this year alone.
Yeah. That is crazy.
That's according to WARN notices. And so obviously WARN notices only apply to those larger layoffs. So that doesn't even speak to some of the smaller, you know, some companies try to operate kind of underneath that umbrella. So they don't have to make those announcements. And so she added in a quote, on a summer Friday when people should be getting excited about the weekend ahead, we are instead hit with the news of another unfortunate exodus of a job creator in New Jersey. Yeah. We need to wrap our arms around this and do something now that sends a message to our largest employers that things are going to change so we can stop this disturbing trend. So I thought that was like kind of an intense quote to wrap around this piece about Mars that maybe Mars is doing this just to cut some costs, which a lot of businesses are doing right now, consolidating buildings and operations in order to do that. That happens constantly. But the Business and Industry Association is seeing it a little bit differently. They're looking at it as a policy thing, a taxation thing, potentially something that they need to directly address because it looks like they're hemorrhaging jobs.
Well, 9,700 jobs. I mean, that is significant, right? Leaving New Jersey this year, is that what you said? That's
what it says.
Yeah, and I mean, Samsung Electronics America, ExxonMobil leaving Jersey for Texas. I think both are going to Texas. And I saw that same clip, I found it in a different article. And, a lot of people are talking about how this is an entirely avoidable thing due to policy issues. I guess CNBC does the top states for business rankings. And, Jeff, New Jersey dead last in the United States when it comes to business friendliness. So
yeah, I mean, you touched on it. In 2026, this is the fourth company to pull out. We talked about the Anheuser-Busch one not too long ago, and you just mentioned Samsung and ExxonMobil.
Yeah.
Both of the, I mean, Anheuser-Busch is going to St. Louis, so kind of like the Mars thing, you can see some connective tissue there.
Yeah, I mean, Mars goes back to like, what, the 20s in Chicago? So there's at least some history there.
Right, so there is some of that, but at the same time, all these folks are leaving for these synergies that they have with these other places. They're not bringing anything in.
Yeah.
So at some point, you have to look in the mirror if you're in New Jersey and say, what are we doing wrong that these big companies are leaving? I think the cost structure is significant. I think it is still extremely expensive to do business in New Jersey, which is why they have such a bad ranking.
Yeah.
The other thing you can look at, one of the things when you look at some of these places that these folks are going to, St. Louis, Chicago, Houston, easy in and out.
Yeah.
Newark is brutal, man. I mean, we've flown in and out of there for a decade or more.
I would love to share many nice things about that area, and I struggle to.
Hey, there's a lot of wonderful people out there.
I love the people. Yeah.
But logistically and from an infrastructure perspective, it is a difficult place to get around. It's not super appealing.
No, I don't understand why you got to do a figure eight to get off the interstate. That doesn't make sense to me.
The jug handles will never make sense.
Yeah.
No. So I think Newark does have a lot of things that they need to work at here in terms of becoming more attractive, not just for attracting new people, but retaining the businesses that they have. It's the cost infrastructure and the taxes. It's being able to pay people and still be profitable because it is an expensive place to live
Very
as well.
expensive to live there, yeah.
And when you look at these corporate headquarters leaving, that's got to come right down to real estate prices, you would think, more than anything else, and taxes associated with that. So the other part here, again, when you're looking to attract new businesses, this is just going to wane on your reputation. I mean, what is there to point to in terms of a case study of, hey, we're New Jersey, we just brought these guys in and look how great it is.
Yeah.
When you run out of those examples, it's a tough sell, even if you do fix some of the tax issues and some of the other cost challenges that are associated there. So I think this is a bigger issue moving forward for them. They've got the immediate problems with losing almost 10,000 jobs.
Yeah.
And then the longer term, bigger picture, I think is also huge for them.
No, the affordability to live, work, and do business in New Jersey is a hot button issue. And we'll actually see how that kind of impacts the upcoming elections in that area as well. I'm curious to kind of track this story as we go on. And I don't know, we'll see. Maybe we'll see one on the other side. Someone that's bringing all the business to Jersey. Maybe we'll see it. All right. Our most popular story this week. No producer Eric. No whiskas in this one. Our top story is about a Ford plant and how Ford plant workers, actually multiple Ford plants, how workers at these plants have been fired for alleged snack thefts. Ford recently launched an investigation into self-serve snack kiosks at its plants. The kiosks are powered by Aramark, and the automaker is looking into possible malfunctions in the payment systems, but this investigation is far from routine. According to the Detroit Free Press, 2 employees were recently fired for taking snacks without paying, charges that they dispute vehemently. One electrician was making more than $200,000 a year at Ford's Super Duty plant in Kentucky. He was fired for taking a $2 chocolate chip cookie without paying. Another employee, an assembly line worker making nearly $90,000 a year at Ford Bronco's SUV plant in Michigan, was let go for allegedly taking a bag of Doritos and another of Ritz crackers. Both employees denied stealing the snacks and asked management why they would intentionally jeopardize their livelihoods for a little bit of junk food. So who's to blame? Sticky-fingered employees or glitchy kiosks? Brendan Fluker works at the Michigan assembly plant in Wayne. He said the payment system sometimes appears to falsely show a completed transaction, double charges employees, or freezes up during a transaction. Now employees are so nervous they won't even use these kiosks, and rightfully so. Nick Nabosny, one of the fired employees, has fired a grievance against Ford through the union. He wants his job and seniority back, but for now, he's dipping into his 401k just to support his family. Ford is working with Aramark to review situations where employees said they were wrongly accused of intentionally taking items without paying. Anna, do you think Ford was a little tardy on this investigation? I can understand how if it happens one or two times, but now there have been multiple reports and they're just like, oh yeah, we might actually have a greater issue here.
Yes, I do. It's absurd to me that there's like a knee-jerk mechanism for firing an employee over something as minuscule as this.
Also, if you have an employee that's going to steal a $2 thing of Ritz, like maybe that's a question about like their other needs. I don't know, like not just you're fired. We got you on camera, you're fired.
It was confusing to me. And, Ford has been doing a few other things that are a little bit confusing. I guess this Michigan assembly plant is kind of enduring some odd scrutiny right now. So the Detroit Free Press, in a separate report, said that Ford is embarking on a months-long trial of a canine team that will be used at this same plant for sniffing out guns, ammunition, and bombs. Quote, in an effort to gather information that it says the company will use to ensure top-line safety in its factories. And while the goal is to help prevent potential acts of violence, reportedly. To me, the message that sends is this is not a safe environment, right?
Yeah.
On top of that, you have these firings, which have come with reports that these plant workers are now avoiding using the snack machines because they're so afraid that they're going to be fired or implicated in theft. And it's easy to see why they're kind of stepping back.
Yeah, trust your employees every once in a while, you know?
Well, yeah, I just think that the plant and Ford is just really putting out some weird vibes culturally. And I find this interesting because Ford CEO Jim Farley has gone on record many times talking about the skilled worker shortage. He's called it a huge crisis. And while a plant in of this size, right? It's got a worker population. This Wayne assembly plant is like 6,200 employees or something.
Yeah.
Like that's the population of a small town. I understand that you maybe need more safeguards than, say, our company of 20 people. But it's not a great message to send to either your workers or your prospective pool of recruits to, like, A, show that you could be fired due to an alleged technology glitch, or B, that you have a need for gun-sniffing dogs in your facility, right?
Dogs that are trained to sniff gunpowder. That's not great.
Not great. And I'd argue that the snack theft thing is worse because of what you said, because to me it implies carelessness in treating your employees, that there was a lack of due diligence in this scenario, and their livelihood is subject to the whims of some faulty equipment within the factory. Nobody was able to plead their case or untangle this mess before they were all fired. That is like inexcusable to me.
It is.
So all of this combined, I feel like Ford needs to take a moment and sit down and say, what kind of image are we projecting to the community?
Yeah.
And how can we do a better job of that?
No, this is honestly everything about this story just reminds me of the frustrations of bad corporate human resources. It is just because there are some reports where, and I'll get into it a little bit, of them sitting down with supervisors, watching the video, explaining what's happening in the video, and they're still fired. Now, Jeff, talking about what you said in the previous story about, maybe they like this Schellsburg facility because of the machine whisperers and the trade gap. I mean, when we're talking about an electrician making $200,000 and we're talking about another making 90, these are probably high value employees. Don't you think you give them a little bit more trust when it comes to I
think they'd love to. I think there's a bigger issue here, though. So when you look at this facility, the reason that these folks were let go is there is a zero tolerance for theft. Okay? Zero. Does not matter what it is. And I'm assuming, I'll go on a limb here and say it can start with like a spark plug. Yeah. And it leads to a fan belt. And then where does it go from there?
I'm assuming you were going to do the whole Johnny Cash song. Sorry.
I love when you cut me off in the middle of a point, David.
I apologize.
I think that's great.
One
I
piece
appreciate
at a time.
that. Yeah. I was getting there.
I've heard your feelings. I apologize.
Go on. All right. So I think that's where it starts, obviously, with that type of thing. So then, again, zero tolerance. It doesn't matter what it is. If it is theft, this is what happens. You are terminated.
What if it isn't theft?
Okay, but here's the problem. You're right. Okay. In a logical situation, anybody can look at this and say, these guys should not have been fired for this.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's not what we have working here. And a lot of this contentiousness is also, in my opinion, the result of the UAW and Sean Fain. This has not been somebody who's been a corporate partner. This is somebody who has drawn battle lines and really gotten a lot of gains for these workers, but also created an environment of this is how this is going to be. And I think this is also a situation where Ford is saying, look, we've given you everything. This is our rule. This is what happens. You steal something, you're gone.
Yeah.
Now, again, common sense dictates you take a closer look at this and you make certain concessions in terms of looking at the situation from a broader perspective. The other thing that's weird about this is this guy filed a grievance with the union to try to get his job back. But due to the bureaucracy of the union and the number of outstanding grievances there are, he's at the way back of the line. It could be years before this actually gets funneled through all the right pipelines and dealt with or addressed by the union and Ford.
Yeah.
So you've got two different entities, in my opinion, that are equally responsible for the ridiculousness of this situation. Okay? The union could be a little bit easier to work with, which would probably make Ford less almost militant in their following the zero tolerance policy here.
Yeah.
So I think you've got two different people who ideally want the same thing but refuse to concede anything in working through a situation like this, which should be a 5-minute phone call.
Yeah.
Like this should be done and over, not a lawsuit, not an ongoing story, not a UAW grievance that takes years to solve.
Well, and it should be Ford against Aramark, not employees against Ford, because it's like, hey, you're putting faulty vending machines that are causing like severe morale problems at our business, and I think Aramark's got a lot of problems ahead here. But I mean,
if it's Aramark, okay, and it's the machine that's at fault here, which probably is, okay. Again, why does this get blown up over literally less than $10 snacks? I guess because of the environment.
Yeah, no, I guess I didn't really think about that as where they didn't see it. They didn't see it as an employee making a bad choice, or maybe there being a mistake. Maybe they're looking at it as, just another bad union employee that needs to go. I don't know. But
again, I think they're just sticking to their guns on the zero tolerance thing, even expanding it to something this foolish. Yeah. Because they're gonna. Because you know what? We got beat up in these other areas. We're sticking to our guns here.
Well, and I mean, there was this one story, like the one was, his name was Kurt Crom. He was a 60-year-old electrician. He had 11 years of service at Ford's Kentucky truck plant in Louisville. He told the New York Post that he actually rejected an offer to return after Ford fired him for allegedly failing to pay. He bought grandma's chocolate chip cookies for $1.95. He is a diabetic, and his blood sugar dropped to 60 during an overnight shift on May 9th, prompting him to buy these cookies at this self-checkout kiosk of Aramark's. They reinstated him. They paid him $33,000 in back wages and invited him to return to work. But because everything got so bad so fast, he refused to return and hired a lawyer. So going to be a way bigger issue for Ford and Aramark going forward.
Right. So what creates this contentious, judicious attitude? There's a cultural issue there. It's the employees against the company.
Yeah. No, and it's, do you see that union angle in that, Anna? Just that because it is this us versus them mentality, do you think that's what made him a little quick on the trigger when it came to firing people?
I don't, because I do think that Ford has a motivation to maintain strong ties with their workforce to retain them, to suggest that they're retaliating against an over-aggressive union. I get your point around like everything is regimented, right? Mm-hmm. I get that. But I don't think that Ford benefits by being I don't want to use a curse word on the podcast, but like
they're being a dick.
All right. What do they gain from that, from like nitpicking here? To me, this is like the tech failed, most likely. That's what I'm getting from this story.
Yeah.
And there was not enough of a safety net to look at that objectively and think like, wow, this happened a couple times in a row.
Yeah.
Maybe we should look at the technology before we shoot from the hip. Even though we have a zero tolerance policy, is that the most reasonable choice to make in this moment when we are having a really hard time maintaining a workforce and we have all these production requirements and we got all these goals to hit? Maybe we should take a closer look at this before we move forward.
Yeah.
I think that's reasonable for Ford from their perspective. I don't think that necessarily they're going to be like, finally a chance to get back at the UAW and Sean Fain, who we hate.
Well, and it seems like a failure of common sense to me. Like, so at least 3 other Michigan assembly workers who have been fired over snack thefts have been reinstated after investigations have cleared them. And Jeff, to your point, I was kind of curious as to why one of the workers, Nabozny, was out kind of talking to the press about what's going on. And to your point, maybe it's because he's trying to jump the line. Just like, hey, in the list of grievances, I'm dead last and I'm running out of 401k to like support my family. He says, and part of the story is just so aggravating. He says that he met with Ford management on April 27th. He was shown the surveillance footage from earlier that month that allegedly captured this incident with the self-checkout marketplace near the end of the overtime shift. He said he watched in the video him pulling out his debit card, tapping it, waiting for the register, and then they still fired him. Like, it's just, I don't understand how. It's like sometimes when 2 people have an experience or they're watching something and just have 2 completely different takes on it. It doesn't make any sense to me.
You're trying to look at this pragmatically, and I'm telling you, it's an emotional response.
Yeah.
That's what I feel this is. This is not common sense. I agree. This is stupid. This is not worth Ford's time. Okay,
Yeah.
This is not worth anybody's time.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's more than that.
But like for a publicly traded company, a $1 billion company like Ford, emotional response should not be part of the game.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying it is.
Yeah.
There's no other reason why.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. I agree.
But does it? So we've seen other methods of restocking. You know, people have vending machines to get supplies and stuff like that. But we've seen some solutions where people can kind of just take things off the shelf and it's supposed to be automatically registered. Do you think this might make people apprehensive to use some of these other technologies in fear that, you know, there's going to be some sort of tech issue and they're going to wind up getting blamed for taking Post-it notes? Then I don't know. Like I think
the other type of technology is a better safeguard, honestly, because it's like your ID card or whatever, and it just and if it doesn't work, you're in there. It should be registering that you're in there. You know what I mean? So
it's easier
that's
to
like
show a tech failure.
It is.
Yeah.
But again, those systems, while they are very impressive with their capabilities, that's a huge corporate expense. So
yeah. Oh, so in the other part of the story with the Kurt Crom, the $1.95 grandma's cookies, he even went in to his debit card logs, found it, showed them the $1.95 transaction. It was just crazy to me that it got to that. All right. Well, before we jump into, in case you missed it, we have another word from our sponsor, Oracle NetSuite. This episode is brought to you by Oracle NetSuite. For many businesses today, waiting to modernize your ERP may seem like the safe choice, but hidden costs can quickly add up. Every delay brings more inefficiencies and missed opportunities for innovation, while competitors who modernize gain an ever-growing advantage. So don't download this new guide so you can discover the real price of waiting, how outdated systems lead to costs and limit your growth potential, the risk of falling behind, what's lost by delaying ERP modernization, and how early adopters gain a competitive edge, and the modern ERP advantage, how NetSuite's AI-powered features streamline operations and enable faster, smarter business decisions. So download The Hidden Costs of Standing Still to learn how timely ERP modernization drives faster growth, sharper insights, and long-term competitive success. In case you missed it, stories that weren't as popular on our sites but could impact the industry going forward. Anna, what do you have for us this week?
I selected a Ford story about how Ford is helping to establish a new alliance for supporting America's skilled trades. And I picked it because of our previous story, because we were talking about how this is a very important issue for Ford. And it's dumb that they're firing people for not stealing. When they have to also at the same time create an alliance to help develop skills for people to work at their plants. But anyway, that's not the focus of this.
You're totally over it.
I'm over it.
It's just a strange coincidence.
It's a coincidence. So Ford, Google, BlackRock, Carhartt, they're all in this collaboration to launch what they're calling the Alliance for America's Skilled Trades. It's a new initiative that's focused on expanding access to training and then helping meet the growing workforce needs in the U.S. They have committed to supporting skilled workforce training initiatives in 30 states across the U.S. The Alliance hopes to help companies multiply their impact in 3 areas. Build the skilled trades pipeline by broadening access and increasing exposure to the trades for more Americans. Great. Scale evidence-based workforce development approaches such as investing in apprenticeships and pre-apprenticeship programs that create opportunities to earn and learn on the job. Again, great. I mean, we've talked about this for years, but apprenticeships, I think, are really the key to getting people in the door and learning as they go, but also giving them a job that's just pure training, right?
Right.
And then lastly, they say they want to expand the partnership to like-minded industry, labor, education, and nonprofit organizations to reach more workers and more communities across the country. So at first I thought this already exists in so many other ways. There's a lot of orgs that do this. However, we still have this problem, right? So I guess to me, it stands to reason that this is an all hands on deck approach and that the more, the better.
Yeah.
And to have companies with deep pockets like BlackRock,
Google. Yeah, some deep pockets there.
To put some money into trying to enhance this for communities and make it regional, that's huge. This could actually be hugely impactful. So I was glad to see Ford putting their money where their mouth is and hope for the best for this initiative.
Any training on snack machines?
It was not in the press release.
Okay.
If there was anything about the snack machines.
We'll have to check the curriculum.
Yeah.
Just Snack Machine 101. No, I think I'm glad that you picked this story because it's the type of feel-good story where, I feel like people read the headline. They're like, yeah, they should be doing that. And that's all they need. So a little bit more context as to who actually has skin in the game and how it's working. I don't know. I think that's very valuable. Jeff, I mean, I understand that you don't want to lose your firm grasp on the curmudgeon role, but it's got to be hard to find something half empty on this one.
Unless you're anti-jobs.
Ooh, a full switch.
Oh, I'm still pro jobs.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
So
the hot take.
I think what was interesting about this is the focus on the pipeline. We've heard some of the companies talk about apprenticeships and things like that. That I think is so important because it's one thing for Moraine Park Technical College to go to local high schools and guidance counselors in Dodge County and talk about, hey, we need these folks. It's another thing when Ford is knocking on your door, talking to guidance counselors and other folks in the high schools and saying, we need these folks. These are viable jobs. These are great career opportunities. So I think Google as well and some of those other folks that are also involved in the alliance, I think that just adds more credibility in steering kids towards what they want to do, what they have interest in, or exposing them to different stuff within the trades, as opposed to the sort of format of you graduate high school, you go to college, you figure it out, so on and so forth. There's other paths, and as opposed to them being like, maybe just another option to celebrate them and promote them more is nothing but positive.
Do you think kids are more or less likely to pursue a path if it is like a Ford sponsored opportunity? Do you think, because I guess I don't have kids around this age. Like, I don't know if they see something like that and it's a red flag rather than like, hey, they say there's a job waiting for me if I do this.
I don't think it's either way for the kid.
Yeah.
I think it's easier to present that as an option saying, who was talking to me about this at school today?
Okay.
It was Ford. It was Google.
Yeah.
All of a sudden that makes parents less. I never experienced this, but I definitely had friends and other folks who have saying, I don't want my kid to go into XYZ. I don't, I want them to go to college. I want them to do these things. Well, if the kid comes and says, Ford was in school today talking about these awesome opportunities for electricians.
Yeah.
I think that resonates differently with all the supporting structure around that potential electrician.
No, yeah, I think that'll go a long way too. And at that point for me, it was just I don't care what you do as long as it's not in this house anymore. No,
Whoa.
no, that's an exaggeration. That's an exaggeration. Everything was healthy. All right, my, in case you missed it this week, was a story about how the U.S. just banned foreign-made humanoid robots. This is a story that came from the AP. The FCC is banning imports of new foreign-made humanoid robots and power inverters, citing national security risks. The move targets China, which of course accused the U.S. of protectionism. Now, at a base level, I just wanted to say that of the moves that we have done to ban foreign-made things for security risks, I genuinely believe this is a good idea in terms of having more regulation. I think in general, we need more regulation on humanoid robots as they're developed. But when you want to say that there's a potential national security risk with foreign-made humanoid robots, I agree with that. China right now has 85% of the market share. This ban is also going to include robotic dogs or quadruped robots. The agency said that imports of these advanced robots pose cybersecurity and other national security risks. Offshore production of such equipment also leaves the U.S. supply chains vulnerable to disruptions. I mean, Jeff, I understand that anytime there's a story with a potential cybersecurity threat, it's certainly on your radar. But I just think there are so many parts of this equation and unknowns that when we come to slowing a roll, even if it is a bit of to maybe enhance trade tensions, as there are some big talks coming up, I don't know. This one, of the many, at least made sense to me.
So we did a follow-up on this where we actually talked to a lot of cybersecurity professionals and got their input on it. And it was very interesting because, while a lot of them were obviously very supportive of this dynamic in the spirit of the regulation and what they're trying to accomplish, there's a lot of folks who said, sure, fine, but basically this just looks like market protectionism.
It looks petty.
This doesn't really look like it's solving a problem, because if you want to solve this problem, you have to look at all the stuff that's already in the fence.
Right.
It's already come through the door.
Mm-hmm.
So to really have an impact, this is kind of a decent first step.
Yeah.
But and there was one person I should have looked at and called them up, but their quote was basically, if there's software, there's a vulnerability.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. It doesn't just relate to these humanoid robots. And I think to be clear, really there should have just been an expression of, we don't want all of these things coming in from China. We want to do more to build it ourselves. That'll help us be more secure.
Yeah.
And it'll help us. There's so much talk about, I don't want to get too far down this rabbit hole, but like the bill of materials for software and all this embedded software and getting more in depth there. So we've got government agencies who are trying to help industrial organizations really understand what's already inside.
Yeah.
And so this is an interesting first step, but it's not all the way there. And if this is really the intent, to be more secure and really defend against some of these foreign-made robotics and other things, we need to go back and look at the stuff that's already here. Yeah. And it can't just be China. It needs to be wherever it's coming from.
I know, and that's why it makes it seem like it is a political point. But it's also a weird mix of software and hardware that could really be used to do some bad things.
100%.
Yeah.
It's, in my opinion, it's a good first step.
Yeah.
But to really have teeth, you need to take it to the next level.
Well, and I mean, kind of to that point, the other part of this are the power inverters, right? And these are things that are used in renewable energy systems, data centers, even our household appliances. So it's kind of like everything we've been talking about stuff that's already on the water facility that already is vulnerable. So I think that a lot of this is good. Anna, one of the points in this article is that, so there are 15,000 humanoid robots that are shipped globally as of last year. Unitree and Agibot, two of China's largest advanced robotics companies, each shipped more than 5,000. Now, to Jeff's part about maybe helping boost U.S. Manufacturing of these, Tesla, Figure AI, each of them shipped a few hundred or less last year. So there is a huge gap in the market there. So it could be market protectionism, but also I do think good in terms of national security? What are your thoughts?
I mean, to me, the first question that came to my mind was, why humanoids? Why is it got to be a humanoid or a dog or a quadruped if the problem is not the form factor, it is the internal components and the security therein, right?
I think part of it is the form factor. Like, I mean, an industrial robot can't just walk and do something nefarious. Like, I think a quadruped and a humanoid robot could essentially, navigate outside of its application and do harm.
Yeah, but if it were a nefarious actor, I mean, Jeff can speak to this, like, the form factor is not going to limit it from doing harm to your business.
No, I mean, correct.
Are you saying it can't come over and like choke out a person, I guess? Well, yes, like if that's what we're afraid of here.
Or walk somewhere it's not supposed to and steal secrets that way. I'm just saying, like, an industrial robot on a line can't get off the line and walk out of the plant.
I would agree. I'd actually agree with David here. I mean, there is a cyber physical element here to this when you look at some of these form factors. When we look at cyber attacks, typically it's data, it's information, it's access, all of those things.
Right.
When you take some of that and you couple it with the fact that it is a moving robot around the floor, just like you can hack into a drone and do bad things, I could see how having a mobile asset that you've hacked into, yeah, I could see that could take it to a next level, even if it's something as simple as putting the wrong ingredient into a chemical mixture or changing the pH balances or
But you don't think there's already technology that is like...
Yes, there is.
Oh, like that's stationary that could do that? Or then, like, what about all the other things that can, like a wireless AGV? Are we banning those? Like,
I think what this does, there's thousands of different ways to get in and hack a company.
Right.
This is another one. So it's sort of trying to close at least one of those doors and focus on the 900 other ones.
To me, it feels like toothless is the word that you used. And to me, it feels that way by just targeting this one area when, again, to look at the political point, a top political donor happens to make humanoid bots in Fremont, California.
Is trying.
He's trying to, and as we know, the technology is a lot worse than what is coming out of China in terms of capabilities.
Yeah.
So, if maybe this is the government looking at like, hey, maybe humanoids, there's not an immediate need, so maybe we can give them some time to build these out, and then we buy them domestically. But I'm just not buying it. To me, it feels like a very it's like a weird kind of drop in the bucket type solution that doesn't target all the other areas. I mean, you can't defund CISA and then do this and think you're like making any progress.
Oh, yeah.
They're fundamentally disconnected in terms of like what we think how we're moving forward,
No, that's a very fair point. All right, Jeff, what is in case you missed it this week?
So I picked a story on a 400-year-old Bell foundry is adding modern tech to keep their casting process alive. So basically, this is a company in Austria. I thought this was just kind of a cool story, just how this, not an industry you'd even really think is an industry.
Big bells.
Yeah, and how these folks have just rolled with a lot of changes over a very long period of time and implemented some new stuff. So founded in 1599. You heard that correctly. 1599. The Grassmere Bell Foundry in Innsbruck, Western Austria, has survived wars, famines, epidemics, and economic challenges. These days, the family is run by a couple of brothers. This family goes back to the Renaissance in the Middle Ages. During the Renaissance in the Middle Ages, there are hundreds of these bell makers throughout Europe. There's only a handful of them, and these folks have been able to survive through a combination of time-honored traditions. They've got like patented technologies or processes that they use for treating the bells and cleaning the bells, but also they've brought on board 3D printing and scanning, lasers, and computer simulation apps to help continue to run as efficiently and effectively as they can. These bells can take up to 3 months to make an individual bell.
Yeah.
So the fact that they've survived this long through a combination of time-honored tradition, over 400 years of doing this. So doing some of those things, obviously they've got a good brand, at this point.
Yeah.
But also bringing in a lot of these new technologies and responding to the fact that there's fewer bells being made or less demand for them. So there's just a shrinking marketplace, but so they're now expanded into refurbishing bells.
Yeah.
They do have a lot of these proprietary processes they use for cleaning them and treating them and refurbishing and all that. So I just thought it was a cool story about how things change. You got to roll with it. There are options out there in terms of staying up to date, even if it is really one of the most simple mechanisms in the world, a bell. But there are ways to make your product better. There are ways to stand out and to keep moving forward. So I thought it was just kind of a cool story on a manufacturer who's just continued to evolve in a very, very positive way.
That is an incredible story. And I did think you misspoke when you said $15.99. That is crazy.
Yeah.
400 years old. It has got it. I think it has to be like the top 5 oldest companies ever, because the first one that's still operating is in Japan. They're a paper maker, 771 AD. They've been in business since. But then the next one that's still in business is Beretta in Italy. They've been doing business since 1526. So, I mean, this has got to be close to like the 3rd oldest company still operating in the world. That's crazy. And Anna, would you ever think that it would be a bell maker?
No. But it is a cool story. I'm glad you picked this one too, because the headline, of course, caught my eye. Yeah. Any understanding of how much one of these bells costs? Because that was my initial question. Like, I would love to know if it takes 3 to 4 months to make one.
Well, and that's one of the things that they're fighting, right? I didn't see any specific pricing info in here, but just the price of all the metals and stuff that they're dealing with.
Right.
I mean, material costs is another huge challenge. I mean, there's a lot of manufacturers dealing with that. But man, when you've got a pretty limited scope in terms of your product offerings and still dealing with a lot of that, I mean, they're not buying the same amount of copper as, an automotive manufacturer, anybody else, and they're still able to keep churning out these bells.
I don't know. I feel like this is one of those things where it's like, contact a sales representative for your for pricing. No, it's a really cool story, and it's a good reminder of how if you do keep up with technology, you can survive. Very cool story. All right. Before we get out of here this week, let's do our final thoughts. Anna, what's your final thought this week?
Ooh, what is my final thought this week? Well, we're taking the kids to the local, I don't know what you call it, semi-pro baseball.
Oh, gonna go see some Northwoods League baseball?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they have this.
Go Mallards.
They have this thing where you can buy for it's 90 minutes after the gate opens, as much food and soda as you want.
Yeah.
So I don't know, we were kind of telling the kids about it. We're like, well, so we're not going to buy you any concessions because we are doing this tailgate thing before.
Yeah.
So you got to just hammer down.
You got to get after it.
Everything that you can eat in 90 minutes. We're not having dinner.
Yeah.
Did your youngest daughter get excited about the caffeinated soda?
Oh, she is not getting caffeinated soda. She pitches me on this at least once a week.
Yeah.
And the other day we were out to lunch and she was like, someone had a Pepsi and she was like, can I have a drink of this? Oh, I know what happened. She ordered a root beer and it got swapped with somebody's Pepsi.
Oh, okay.
So she took a drink of it and she's like, I just had Pepsi. And she's like, I'm going to be up until 10 o'clock. I don't know what the appeal of caffeine is to a child, but when you say you can't have it.
Yeah,
that's the appeal, I guess.
Yeah. I would say just go for it. Maybe bring some foil. I've been introduced to the pocket hot dog at Brewers games or whatever. So maybe wrap one or two things up for that mid-game snack.
Oh, good idea. They have a clear bag rule, so I don't know
just
how much I can get away with.
This is just my pocket foil. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Is it? Oh, so is it outside of the field? Or is it? No, you're in there, right? Because then there's the playland too.
We'll find out.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
I don't know. That's I'm a sucker. I was just talking about this while we were on the road this week about how much I enjoy these amateur baseball and minor league baseball games because you sit right on the field.
Yeah.
It's a great fan experience and you can get to everything very easily.
Right.
It's if I'm at a Brewer game and I want to go to the kids area, sometimes it's a 15-minute walk with the kids. And by the time we're halfway there, they're like, why are we even walking anyways? I'm like, Well, because of the thing you wanted to get to, you know, like it's just, I understand my attention span's hard enough to, you know, wrap it, you know, but, you know, with kids, it gets difficult. We make it to that liney lounge and we just call it a day. My final thought was just, this weekend we were able to get out and spend some time with friends, and just spend the whole weekend together. And I liked it because when you spend a long time with friends, you know, I feel like sometimes when you have dinner, like everyone gets 15 minutes, right? It's just, what's going on in your life? This is good. This is bad. Good. We'll talk about it later, maybe via text. But when we had 3 days to kind of just sit and everyone could talk about everything good, talk about everything bad, you know, and realize that everyone is there together to kind of help each other and lean on each other. It was just, you know, it was a good reminder of that, you know, your support system. You have your family, your blood family, and then you have your friend family. And it was good to get together with the friend family and kind of remind everyone that we're there for each other. And it was great. The only thing I would say is that staying out at a fire until 4 a.m. is not something that I am equipped to do anymore. And it was just, everyone was out having a good time. And I realized that, like, so there were like 4 couples there. And I realized that there was just one representative of each couple there. And then I realized that my couple, both reps are there. I'm like, oh no, one of us has to get up in like 3 hours. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be me. And but it was a very good time. Share, be there for each other. Also go to bed at a better hour because.
How did you last till 4 o'clock?
Oh, it was very chill.
This goes against your track record.
No. It was very chill. I was mostly having long drinks and water. It was very, we went kayaking, you know, it was, no. This wasn't run it to the bottom, race to the bottom.
All right.
Yeah, no, it was much more chill.
Good for you.
But we burned a forest worth of wood. It was just like, hey guys, it took me like 3 months to split all this. Can we not burn it all? But it was a great time. Jeff, your final thought this week.
Well, you're talking about attention span.
Yeah.
I'm kind of wondering because I'm late to the party, but I want to go see the movie The Odyssey in the theater.
Yeah.
And it's like 3 hours.
Yeah.
And I struggle to watch a movie that's like an hour and a half without going to something else.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. But I hear a lot more people are going back to the theater. It's sort of like a resurgence, which is also kind of cool to hear.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Because I do love going to the movie theater.
I do. Yeah. And same. And it's people, you want to get out of your house, or at least some people still do. You know, I've actually, some of the people that I trust with their movie takes, even they were like, whoa, it's a lot. Because, you know, it's also like a high action type, you know, so it's going to be sensory overload. I'm kind of curious to get your take on it.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to spending that long in a movie theater.
Yeah.
But it's been a while, so
okay.
See.
Yeah, please report back. All right, well, before we get out of here, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. And before we get out of here, congratulations to producer Eric coming back. Had some big news while out in Canada there. Love you guys. All right, now, before we get out of here, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. If you want to email the podcast, Jeff, David, or Anna at in.com, email the podcast in the subject line. Lindsay, as always, thank you for reaching out. I really do appreciate your perspective. Subscribe to our daily newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first. And subscribe to us on YouTube at IN Magazine so you can join us whenever we go live. All right, for Jeff Renke and Anna Wells, I'm David Manty. This is the Today in Manufacturing podcast, and we will see you next week.